Gang, what's up? Aaron here, Canadian Looney. We're about to get right into another crazy week of Canadian federal politics. I've got some videos to show. We'll slip into question period. There were some things that went down this morning in the House of Commons. Going to show some of that. So let's kick it off. You guys know how we do it. Good to see everybody. My name's Aaron. Like, share, subscribe, smash that like. Let's see what kind of crowd we can gather today. It's ferocious in the House of Parliament. Let's go. Yeah. In Canadian federal politics, the Canucks are represented by two separate yet unequal groups. The globalists who sold out and the opposition trying to salvage a country. These are their stories.
I think it is extraordinary that Mark Carney has become the Prime Minister of Canada. He did a terrible job in Britain.
Member for Waterloo on a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know you are newer to that chair, but the Honourable Member from Regina Capel has occupied that chair, even has a portrait on these walls. And so then to use terminology such as deliberately misleading is him doing indirectly what he cannot do directly. And I think we should have much more professionalism in order in such an important debate today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, yeah.
All right, gang, Aaron here, Canadian Looney. What did Andrew Scheer say? What was so unprofessional? I guess you can't call out Carney, his deception in the House of Commons, she thinks. We're going to watch and see what Andrew said. He's the funniest guy on Parliament Hill, no doubt. He's not being very funny in this one. Taking the truth to Carney, not acceptable by his backbenchers.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
That the House call on the Prime Minister to immediately repeal the oil and gas emissions cap, which in effect is a production cap. The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Breaking news today, really good news for some, $8.5 billion. That's how much TC Energy just announced that it is investing in the energy sector. In fact, they said that they were betting big on the energy sector. Bad news is that's in the United States. $8.5 billion from a Canadian company invested in the United States instead of investing that here in Canada. That's $8.5 billion that will put people to work, pay royalties to state governments, create thousands of jobs in spin-offs, and of course provide Americans with safe and secure energy sources. I remember when TC Energy was called TransCanada Energy, and after 10 years of Liberal policies absolutely devastating the energy sector here in Canada, they decided to take that word Canada out of its name, and now they're just known by TC Energy. So the Commonwealth of Virginia will see a major pipeline built by Canadian companies. That could have happened here, but it is not. Now, before I go on, Mr. Speaker, I should just mention that I am sharing my time with the Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent, Akia Wenrack. Let's be very clear about why that investment is not coming to Canada. Because there is a production cap. The Liberals like to call it an emissions cap. It is, in fact, a production cap. And if you take away one thing from today's debate, Mr. Speaker, it should be this. If you say yes to that cap, you are saying no to a new pipeline. It is as simple as that. Right. Now let's think back to the election campaign when this Prime Minister was desperately trying to convince people that he was going to do things differently from the previous Liberal government, from the Trudeau government, of which the Prime Minister was a senior economic advisor. When he needed Canadians' votes, he was pretending to be in favor of energy sector developments. He said all kinds of things during the campaign. But as soon as the votes were tallied, this Prime Minister showed himself to be just another Liberal, because he's broken those promises and broken all those commitments. He's got a long history of opposing energy developments. He cheered on and congratulated the previous Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, when Justin Trudeau vetoed the Northern Gateway project. The Northern Gateway project would have taken Western Canadian energy to a deep water port in northern British Columbia, opening up billions of dollars of market access in Asian countries, growing countries with increasing demand for oil and gas, India, Japan, Korea. All of that was killed when Justin Trudeau vetoed the Northern Gateway, and this Prime Minister cheered him on. It is completely impossible to build another pipeline as long as this cap stays in place. If this cap stays, no new pipelines will ever be built. It's increasingly clear that this Prime Minister has performed a complete bait and switch, saying something during the election, changing the rhetoric of the Liberal Party, but delivering the exact same policies as the previous Trudeau government. TC isn't the only company building in the United States, Mr. Speaker. Enbridge is as well. Enbridge is building 2 pipelines in the U.S. And again, these are Canadian companies with strong, proud histories of getting things built in Canada that have to go offshore into the United States to get new projects built. What does that mean for Canadians? Well, it doesn't just mean lost jobs. Remember, oil and gas production in Western Canada fuels the entire country's economy. And it's not just Canada, I should point out. I know we have colleagues that will be speaking to this motion from Atlantic Canada too, where their hopes for economic growth are underpinned by the ability to develop their abundant natural resources. The world is consuming more and more oil and gas. Pipelines are being built in other countries. In fact, it's ironic to note, and Canadians should never forget, that while this Prime Minister was cheering on Justin Trudeau, advising him to cancel Canadian energy projects, his company, Brookfield, was investing in other countries to build pipelines in other countries, to develop other countries' natural resources. Of course, that was fine for his shareholders, and those projects would have been even more economically viable in other countries if Canada is not producing its own natural resources. You see, if Canada develops its own natural resources and we build pipelines here in Canada, well then Brookfield's investments in pipelines in other countries will be worth less because they'll face increased competition. That's something Canadians should never forget about this conflicted Prime Minister. It's not just the direct jobs that oil and gas production create, Mr. Speaker. Every road you drive on that's paved, every hospital you might have to visit or your loved one, every school that a child goes to is in some way, shape, or form funded by natural resource development. When companies invest, they create jobs along the production site. Those workers support local economies. The royalties gathered by the provincial governments and federal governments pay for important social services. And maybe it's policies like the production cap are the reason why over $50 billion of foreign investment have fled the Canadian economy, right at a time when we need to be firing on all cylinders to respond to the unfair U.S. tariffs. We need more and more money flowing into the Canadian economy to develop our natural resources, to bolster our GDP, to put Canadians back to work when their jobs are disrupted by trade disputes. But instead, this government is continuing the attack on the oil and gas sector, continuing the attack on the natural resource sector. Now, let's be clear about a few things. Not only will this emissions cap keep those investment dollars out of our economy, but it will also mean that Canada continues to sell at a discount to the United States. You may have seen it, Mr. Speaker, on CBC when the Polish ambassador was explaining where Poland's getting its LNG from. That's right. The host said, "Well, you're buying your LNG from the United States," and the ambassador actually had to stifle a laugh. He started to chuckle because he said, "Well, not all that LNG that we're buying from the U.S. is American. Some of it's Canadian. Of course, they buy it from Canada at a deep discount and then sell it to us at a big profit. We are literally subsidizing the American economy by this Liberal government's policies." So Conservatives have a better idea, Mr. Speaker. Instead of pipelines being built in countries that have terrible human rights records, instead of royalties being paid to governments that do not share our values, instead of people being put to work in other countries, let's bring those dollars home. Let's bring those investment dollars here to Canada so that Canada can provide the world with clean and ethical and a safe and reliable source of energy. Let's put those steel workers in Regina back to work, building the pipelines. Let's put the engineers back to work. Let's put the blue-collar workers who tap a well and see it all the way through to completion. Let's support our hospitals, our schools, our roads with the royalties paid by these companies. Greenhouse gas emissions do not need a passport to travel around the world. If that production is going to increase, Conservatives believe that we should see it increase here at home, because we know that we can extract our natural resources, the highest environmental standards, the lowest emissions intensities, and Canadians see the benefit of that. So to conclude, Mr. Speaker, Liberals have a choice. They can vote in favor of our motion and lift the emissions cap, lift that production cap. Or they can say today that they oppose new pipelines, that there will never be a pipeline built under this Liberal government. They could at least be honest with Canadians, honest with provincial premiers who are desperately clinging to hope that this government might reverse the Trudeau policies. If they vote in favor of this motion today, they are effectively saying that there will be no new pipelines in Canada under this Liberal government. And their list that they came forward with C5, let's be clear, giving the power to selectively enforce Canadian laws when it comes to new energy production, new energy projects, will not matter as long as that production cap is in place. As long as that emissions cap is in place, it doesn't matter what they do with the powers they've given themselves under C5, because nothing will be able to flow through any kind of project that they might support. So the key to energy independence and abundance, the key to getting off of the US market and diversifying our customers and natural resources is to lift the emissions cap. Liberals have a choice. We call on them to support the energy workers in this country and pull their emissions cap, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments. Question et commentaire. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise on a point of order today on Friday in question period.
Order on a point of order.
On Friday, I had misspoken during question period while answering a question. I said that emissions are 41% lower than they have been in the past, when I intended to say that they are 41% lower than they would have been under a Conservative plan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe the Prime Minister has actually been very clear to Canadians and members opposite in terms of how it is that Canada is going to continue to build a strong economic economy. And at the end of the day, that factors in energy. I'd like to contrast even just the beginning of what the current Prime Minister had compared to Stephen Harper. When the member was sitting in the Speaker's chair during that period, it's important that Canadians realize that under Stephen Harper and the Conservative government, they didn't even build an inch of pipeline that led to the Tidewaters.
Wow.
That is the reality.
Wow.
The member opposite might say that that's not true. Then give us the pipeline that went directly from Alberta to either BC, Churchill, or Atlantic Canada.
Good question.
The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
First of all, Mr. Speaker, I know we don't debate points of order, but I think it's so telling that the first moment of this debate kicks off with the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of the Environment and Climate Change admitting that what he said on Friday was not true, that emissions aren't going down under this Liberal government's plan, that they're in fact going up. And he has to make up some kind of hypothetical qualifier to get away from accusations of deliberately misleading the House. Mr. Speaker, 4 major pipeline projects, including access to Tidewater, were built under the previous Conservative government. This Liberal government inherited a proposal list with 18 LNG facilities that they have completely blocked or sat on. This Liberal government cancelled Northern Gateway and cancelled Energy East, which would have taken Western Canadian oil to displace foreign oil imported from other countries. It is clear if Canadians are hoping to develop the natural resource sector, it won't be with a Liberal government.
Question et commentaire. Member for Windsor West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. During this past election, every door I knocked on, 1 out of every 3 doors, the question was, Mr. Gill, how is your party going to facilitate diversification of the economy? Our economy is totally dependent on auto sector jobs. The Honourable Opposition House Leader attended my riding a couple of weeks ago, and he had the opportunity to attend a company called Southwest Manufacturing. This was a tool and die business that has diversified into oil and gas and nuclear. I would like the opposition House Leader to enlighten the rest of the House as to what his discussions were and what he heard from the folks at Southwest Manufacturing. Thank you.
Yeah, we're opposition House Leader, about 40 seconds.
Well, a great question. It was a fantastic meeting that we had, and we heard loud and clear that as long as there aren't new major pipelines built in Canada, as long as there aren't new major energy projects, then those companies will have to continue looking to the U.S. to sell their products or to make their products. And as long as those tariffs are in place, Canada is even more vulnerable to this situation. When I tour energy facilities all over Western Canada, you can see parts and component pieces, heavy equipment, vehicles, all manufactured in Ontario. So the link between manufacturing jobs in southwestern Ontario and development in Western Canada or in Atlantic Canada is obvious to everyone who's not a Liberal.
Please, the Honourable Member for Waterloo on a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know you are newer to that chair, but the Honourable Member from Regina Capel has occupied that chair, even has a portrait on these walls. And so then to use terminology such as deliberately misleading is him doing indirectly what he cannot do directly. And I think we should have much more professionalism in order in such an important debate today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I thank the member for intervention, and we should all use judicious language. Resuming debate.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal illusion is now on a collision course with reality. See, the Prime Minister ran an entire election campaign promising to be the opposite of who he was and to do the opposite of what he had been saying and writing and what the Liberal government had been doing for the prior 10 years. It wasn't just on this question of developing our resources, it was on questions of fiscal policy. He had obviously caused a massive inflation and housing crisis in the UK by printing nearly endless sums of money over there, and then came back here promising that he would spend less, a promise he promptly broke. He advised the Prime Minister in this country, Justin Trudeau, to do likewise, and then promised to do precisely the opposite. He argued that not only should there be a carbon tax, but that tax should be raised even further, only to promise that he would get rid of it, a promise that he is already in the process of breaking. And he had campaigned around the world to defund the energy sector, convincing financial institutions to stop loaning and investing to Canadian energy, and writing, and I quote, that he believed that as much as half of oil reserves, proven oil reserves, need to stay in the ground if we're going to get where we are. And he further said that it was a, quote, sensible decision to cancel the Northern Gateway pipeline. I think it is the right decision, he said. Those were his positions up until, about 2 months before he launched his campaign for Prime Minister, at which point he suddenly reversed himself and tried to plagiarize the positions of the Conservative Party. Now, here's the problem with someone pretending to believe something he clearly does not, just to get elected, is that after the election is over, he reverts quickly to his original course. And that is what we have seen. While there have been many illusions that he would change course, that he would approve projects, that he would, quote, build at unimaginable speeds, none of this has materialized in any form of reality. Here we are, 6 months into the latest Liberal term, and there is not a single new project that was not already in the works which has been given the green light, and certainly not one that is under construction. And so today, we have an opportunity to find out what the Liberals' real position is on the subject of a pipeline. Because yes, this motion is about our ability to ever build a pipeline. Let's break it down. We all agree that Canada has the most resources in the world. We all agree, at least Liberals and Conservatives agree, that the only reason we can't build pipelines to move those resources to tidewater is because of federal bureaucracy and federal laws. Now, you might ask, how can you say that the Liberals agree with that proposition? Well, the answer is that they passed C5, the foundation of which is that we need to go around all of the Liberal laws and bureaucracies in order to get things built. The law literally allows the Prime Minister, through the stroke of the pen, to go around all of the environmental, public safety laws and the associated bureaucracies, which means that he believes that those laws and bureaucracies are neither necessary to protect the environment nor possible if you want to get anything done. So we agree that the laws and the bureaucracy are the obstacle. Here's where we disagree. His view is that to solve the problem of liberal laws and liberal bureaucracies, that we need more liberal laws and liberal bureaucracies, which is to say, he confuses the problem with the solution. We believe that if there are liberal laws and bureaucracies roadblocking development, then get rid of those liberal laws and bureaucracies. Put simply, get out of the way. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. Let investors pour the hundreds of billions of dollars of private investment into building the projects of the future, projects that will pay tax rather than take government handouts. Get out of the way, grant fast permits so that our workers, our prodigious welders, pipe fitters, industrial carpenters, and laborers can get busy earning six-figure paychecks so that they can build our country and make us independent from the Americans. And I will split my time with the member for Edmonton West. In other words, get out of the way. Now, Liberals would retort that you could still get a pipeline built without removing all of the destructive laws and rules that are in place, because their new powers will allow them to go around those laws and rules. But here is the problem. Even if the Prime Minister were to use the powers in C5 to lay out a path to build a pipe from, say, Hardisty, Alberta, the biggest tank farm in Canada, all the way to the Pacific, either Kitimat or Prince Rupert, no one would build that pipeline today because the government bans the production of the oil going into it and the shipping of the oil coming out of it. Another illusion. You see what the Prime Minister is setting us up for here. He wants to be able to say, geez, we'd really love to build a pipeline, but there's no proponent. No one wants to build it. Just not a market case for it. Too bad. I guess we can just move on to another money-losing corporate welfare project that will make the Prime Minister's friends fabulously wealthy, making other people poor, because no one wants to build a pipeline. I guess pipelines are just out of fashion. Forget that they're being built far and wide outside of Canada, including by Canadian companies. But in Canada, they're not being built. Now, why is that? Well, it turns out that nobody wants to build a pipeline when the government bans you from producing the oil to put into it or shipping what comes out of it. So you ultimately have to get rid of the production cap that is preventing the oil from going in and the shipping ban that is preventing the oil from coming out. Two things that this government has so far refused to do. To put this into context, the production cap that this government has imposed, according to the Parliamentary Budget Officer, will cause over 54,000 job losses and blow a $20 billion hole in Canada's GDP. It will also make it impossible for us to get our oil to any market other than the United States of America, making us more dependent, ever more dependent on the U.S., exactly what the opposite of what the Prime Minister promised. And so here we have yet another Liberal bait and switch. The Prime Minister who ran on elbows up has been elbows down, and now he prevents us from shipping to overseas markets, making us even more reliant on the Americans. It's no wonder that President Trump said it would be a lot easier for him to deal with the Liberals. He was right. He knows that the Liberals want to continue to hand over our resources to the U.S. at enormous price discounts. And that's why Conservatives propose to get rid of the production cap. And we're giving Liberals an opportunity to vote here and now. If they vote to keep their production cap in place, it'll be a signal that all of the flirtations that the Prime Minister has done with the possibility of producing more or building pipelines were nothing but an illusion, a tragic and extremely costly illusion. Let's put the illusions behind us and get to the real deal. And here's what it is. We need to pass a Canadian Sovereignty Act that will get rid of the production cap, repeal the anti-pipeline law, C-69, legalize shipping oil off the northwest British Columbia coast, axe the entire carbon tax, the industrial carbon tax, the fuel standard, and all of the taxes that make our energy uncompetitive. We need to replace it with a law that will allow us to approve major projects in just 6 months. Axe the capital gains tax for any business or person that reinvests their money in Canada. This will be economic rocket fuel for our economy, Mr. Speaker. That's what we need. This is a plan for stronger take-home pay with a more powerful dollar that will buy food, fuel, and homes at a more affordable price for our people. The goal in all of this is to make our people richer, to give them bigger and bolder opportunities, to make this, once again, a country that is strong, self-reliant, and stands on its own 2 feet. This is a patriotic act. We call on the government to adopt it. We will work with anyone from any party to get this done because, as always, we put Canada first.
Questions and comments. Questions et commentaires. The honourable member for London West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the leader of the opposition's comments, but I do have a question for him. How does he explain to energy workers that he spent 10 years in cabinet and did not build one single pipeline to coastline, which costs millions of dollars to Canadians? What does he have to say to those people today?
The honourable leader of the opposition.
The answer is we did. We approved and completed 4 pipelines, Mr. Speaker. 4 pipelines, and then we actually approved the Northern Gateway Pipeline, which would have shipped 500,000 barrels of oil from Hardisty, Alberta, to the Pacific before the Liberal government came along and vetoed and shut down that project. I was curious what the now Prime Minister thought of that decision, so I hauled him before the Industry Committee. I said, do you agree with Justin Trudeau's decision to kill the Northern Gateway Pipeline? He said it was a sensible decision and that he agreed with it. And as a result of that decision by Justin Trudeau and the present-day Prime Minister, those 500,000 barrels have to go at a price discount to the Americans, making us weak. That's exactly what that's exactly what this Prime Minister has delivered.
Questions et commentaires.
Questions and comments. The honourable member for La Pointe-à-L'Île. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to congratulate the leader of the Conservative Party for his speech. I'd like to know, how does he explain the increase in the number of forest fires, floods, and natural climate disasters, global warming? Does he think there is a climate crisis? The honourable leader of the opposition. There is very poor management of our forests by this Liberal government. For example, the large forest fire that took place in Jasper, Alberta, where public servants and the Conservative members, the true conservationists, they warned the government to manage these forests and get rid of the deadwood for years. And they saw that lakes, there was a track record on that, but they did nothing. And they accused everyone that was against the carbon tax, accused them of being arsonists and setting fires. It was poor management. We have to properly manage our forests, get rid of the deadwood. Yes, we have to cut down trees in forestry to avoid big forest fires.
The honourable member for Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my colleague for his speech here today. Canada has the gift of natural resources, abundant natural resources, and yet for the last 10 years we've seen a government here in Ottawa telling this industry that they don't matter, telling this industry that their jobs shouldn't exist. So while now they have started to change some of their tune and are admitting that their policies have caused this change, The reality is we don't have proponents for pipelines because those laws still exist. So my question to the honourable member is, what solutions does he have for Canadians who are struggling right now? They're struggling to put food on their table. They're struggling to find jobs in these industries because of the policies from these Liberals.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The member is quite a very tough but fair question, by the way. But the member points out that the Prime Minister has changed his tune. Yes, he's plagiarizing Conservative words, but he's governing like Justin Trudeau or worse. In reality, he has not changed anything, and that is the grand illusion. In reality, he has a Keep It in the Ground caucus that are rebelling against him, and that's why they'll never be able to get anything done over there. You'll need a Conservative government in order to do it. How do you get more affordable food? One of the ways you do it, in addition to getting rid of all the carbon taxes, getting rid of the inflation tax, and all the other Liberal taxes, is have a stronger dollar. How do you get a stronger dollar? You grow your biggest export sector. What is that? Oil and gas. That is right. If you're selling more oil and gas, you have a stronger dollar, and everything that is priced globally becomes more affordable to your domestic market, because that dollar goes further and buys more. You will have more affordable food, fuel. You will have more affordable homes, Mr. Speaker. That is all part of our Conservative plan to bring stronger take-home pay and a better life for our people.
Resuming debate. Resuming debate. Reprise du débat. The Honourable Member for Edmonton West.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. And somewhat pleased, somewhat not pleased to be rising today on this Opposition Day motion. You have to wonder, in what world do you have a country so blessed with natural resources has to have members of Parliament stand up to advocate for actually developing and selling the resources?
Exactly.
Only in Canada do you have that. Now, I want to quote the dearly departed Rex Murphy. He was talking on a very similar bill brought forward from the Liberals. It was Bill C-50, but applies today. He offered up a title for it. He calls "An Act to Inspire and Lubricate in All Manners Facilitate the Separation of Alberta from Canada." Now, this is very much what this government seems hell-bent on. At a time when separatist leanings are on the rise in Alberta, along comes this Liberal government to try and make things worse. President Reagan famously stated, the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, "I'm here from the government and I'm here to help." But with this government, it seems to be saying, "I'm from the Liberal government and I'm here to make things worse." Now, I want to start by listing all the countries in the world that have an oil and gas cap. It's none. Not a single country in the world has an oil and gas production cap or an emissions cap. Just to be sure, I asked ChatGPT if they could name any, and it came back, "I couldn't find credible evidence that any oil-producing country has in place a regulatory cap." There are effectively no other countries that have a cap on oil and gas production emissions. I looked far and wide, no one else does it. So why are the Liberals the only government in the world looking to have their country commit basically economic suicide? And that's basically what an oil and gas cap is. Now, the Fraser Institute just came out with a report showing the last 5 years, GDP growth per capita has been the worst since the Great Depression. That is, the wealth creation has been the worst since the Great Depression the last 5 years, which of course coincides with the 5 years the current Prime Minister was the economic advisor to Justin Trudeau. So here we have the economic advisor for the worst 5-year performance for our economy, our wealth creation, since the Great Depression. So what's their solution to all this? What's their solution to our issues of rising unemployment, catastrophic youth unemployment, a productivity crisis? Well, let's push the economy off the cliff altogether. I want to quote some chilling numbers from the Conference Board of Canada on what will result from an oil and gas cap. We've previously heard the parliamentary budget officer state some numbers, but this is from the Conference Board. To illustrate the magnitude of the impact, under the most likely scenario, The cumulative reduction GDP over 11-year forecast would be $597 billion in nominal terms between 2030 and 2040. So almost $600 billion loss in GDP. We have a productivity crisis, as mentioned. The most productive work in the country, the most value add, is from our oil and gas industry. And the government is bent on destroying it. The report further says real GDP in the oil and gas sector alone will be reduced between 14 and 27 billion, 11% from the baseline. It says total employment will be a loss of 151,000 jobs by 2030, boosting unemployment despite a modest reduction in the labor workforce participation rates. So they're saying that even with less workers in our economy, unemployment's going to go up. Put that in context, 151,000 jobs. There's about 26 million people working in Canada out of a population of about 42 million. So that would be the equivalent of every single person in Burnaby working currently now would be without a job. Every single person in Kitchener, Ontario would be without a job. Longueuil, Windsor, every single person. That is what this government will do. Manufacturing will also take a hit to lose about 10,000 jobs by 2030. Members from the Liberals from Ontario, who do you think is buying all those Ford F-150s? Construction workers, oil and gas workers in Alberta. Manufacturing will be wiped out. Commercial services employment will drop by 52,000. And slackness in the labor market will contribute to a 1% reduction in nominal wages. We're already having an issue right now with dropping wages. Apart from this government flooding the country with temporary foreign workers, blocking young people from being able to take jobs, but also suppress wages. So the government wants to come along and say, hey, I'm here from the Liberal government. I'm here to make things worse. For Alberta, now I'm hoping I will see the Liberal member from Edmonton Centre rise in this House to speak on this motion, to see what she has to say. Or the member from Calgary Confederation. I'd like to see them stand up for Alberta in today's debate. Because this is what the conference board says is going to happen to Alberta. Real GDP in Alberta will decline $28.5 billion. We're looking at a $6 billion deficit in Alberta this year. And the government wants to take another $28 billion. About a 7% drop in our GDP relative to a baseline for 2030. Alberta's GDP will decline a further $31 billion per year between 2030 and 2040 in real dollars. $30 billion, that's almost the total money we spend on healthcare in the province right now. And this Liberal government wants to take that money away for no reason. So I really do look forward to the member from Edmonton Centre and the Liberal member from Calgary Confederation to stand in this House and explain why they're going to back the Liberal government in trying to shut down our economy. The report continues. Unemployment, of course, will be shut. 102,000 less jobs in Alberta. But the report goes on. There is some good news from the report from the Liberals' attempt to destroy our economy. Here's the great news. There is an upside. Because of the negative economic impacts of the oil and gas production cap, we will be slightly mitigated by lower interest rates and the depreciation of the Canadian dollar. Why? Because we'll have economic collapse. It was quite funny watching the Minister of Finance last week cheer. It's a great day for Canada. Interest rates dropped. He doesn't seem to realize interest rates are dropping because the economy is in the tank. It's collapsing. A lower economic output results in lower interest rates. And this finance minister is cheering it on. He doesn't seem to understand low interest rates are a problem. So we are going to see lower interest rates because of lower economic activity and a continued depreciation of our dollar. The oil and gas industry right now is the main thing actually propping up our dollar right now. It's our largest export. And the Liberals want to crater it altogether. I'm going to quote a great comment from the past Liberal Minister of Energy, the one who's probably going off tail between his legs to a posting overseas. It says, oil and gas is probably peaking in this year. That was 2024. A year later, the International Energy Association releases a report. Now, the IEA is probably one of the most ideologically captured international organizations. No longer a friend to the oil and gas industry. They actually say demand is going to increase to a record high this year, not a record drop. OPEC and Goldman Sachs say we will have growing demand to 2050. Canada is the third largest surplus producer in the world. And by surplus, there's a difference between what we produce and what we consume. Higher than us is Russia and Saudi Arabia. Shutting down our oil and gas does not mean the world reduces oil and gas consumption. It moves on to the next producer, Russia and Saudi Arabia. Probably in the Kremlin's cafeteria right now, they're changing the Employee of the Month picture to show the Liberal caucus as Employee of the Month, because all it's going to do is drive jobs and money from Canada and put it in the pockets of dictators. We need to reverse that. We need to grow jobs in Canada, revenue in Canada, and not send it away to foreign dictators. Thank you.
Questions and comments. Question and commentaire, the Honourable Chief Government Whip.
See, the problem with using ChatGPT for this member is he's not the only one that has it. So I asked the same question as him. I said, what countries have regulatory emissions caps? To which the response was European Union, United Kingdom, South Korea, China, Canada, and some United States. So then some of the states. So then I said, okay, well, I bet he asked a really specific question, of which I said, are these oil and gas caps? And the reply was Canada and some of the United States. So what this member is doing is he's selectively choosing information. In reality, according to ChatGPT, his source, jurisdictions with economy-wide caps, which include oil and gas, are the EU, United Kingdom, South Korea, China, Vietnam, and Indonesia. And in addition to that, other countries such as China, Vietnam, and Indonesia are currently exploring them. Would he like to apologize for his misinformation?
The Honourable Member for Edmonton West.
You certainly always count on the member from Kingston to stand up and blabber mistruths in this House. If he actually looked at it, he would actually say the information says that no one has it similar to Canada or what Canada is proposing. It also quotes, these are oil and gas producing countries. There's not a single major oil and gas producing country in this world that is willfully committing economic suicide or planning economic suicide like this government. This government should wake up and look at reality. The Parliamentary Budget Officer says it will crater our economy. Conference Board of Canada says it will crater our economy. Right. We are in a crisis right now, a looming deficit, productivity crisis, unemployment crisis. It's time for the Liberals to actually get on board and stop their virtue signaling and support Canada.
Question and commentaire, Lana.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for Laurentides-Labelle. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I get the feeling that...
All right, gang, we're going to cross over to question period now. I think that we have that about on the go. So we'll just call it up. Let's go. We've got Garnet Ginu to kick things
off.
Let's
human
go.
contact with the shrinking next generation. A shifting population age distribution also makes social programs for the elderly harder to sustain. So, Mr. Speaker, all of us need to work together to rebuild an economy where it's easier for people to have...
The Honourable Member for Halifax.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the contributions of Canada's skilled tradespeople who build our homes, our infrastructure, and our future. From ironworkers to welders, from electricians to painters, and all the apprentices starting their careers, they are the backbone of our economy. Through our government's focus on major projects, we're creating more opportunities for Canadians to train, to work, and to build lasting careers in the trades. Our government knows that investing in training is investing in Canadians' future. By investing in apprenticeships and training, we're ensuring young people can enter these professions and experienced workers can keep their skills sharp. These investments are not just strengthening our workforce, they're strengthening our communities and ensuring Canada remains competitive on the world stage. Mr. Speaker, Canada has always been a nation of builders, and with the dedication of our unionized workforce, I'm confident we will continue building a stronger and more prosperous future for all Canadians. Thank you.
The honourable member for Cambridge.
Mr. Speaker, I recently got an email from a senior in Cambridge. She told me about her trip to the grocery store. She paid over $47 for a few basic items that would only last a few days. She's not asking for luxuries, just enough to eat and get by. The Prime Minister promised to create the fastest growing economy in the G7, but he delivered the fastest shrinking one instead. There used to be a guarantee in Canada that if you worked hard, saved up, got a good job, you'd be all set. But after 10 years of Liberal government, Canadians are worse off. According to Food Bank Canada, more than a quarter of all Canadians are facing food insecurity. The Prime Minister asked us to judge him on the cost of the grocery store, and Canadians are. With every $100 grocery bill, he gets a failing grade. I have a message for this Prime Minister on behalf of the 5,000 people of Cambridge using a food bank and the thousands more going hungry every day. Stop punishing them with high taxes and high inflation. When will the Prime Minister start giving Canadians full plates instead of empty promises?
L'honorable député de Rimouski. The honourable member for Rimouski-la-Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, I warmly congratulate Professor Yves Gingras, historian and sociologist at the University of Quebec in Montreal, and winner of the 2024 Science and Secularism Award, presented in Paris during the 18th ceremony of the Comité Laïcité et République. The award highlights Professor Gingras' commitment to distinguishing between scientific knowledge and beliefs, as illustrated in his book on the impossible dialogue, Science and Religion. As director of the Observatory of Science and Technology, Yves Gingras embodies intellectual rigor and critical thinking. A member of the Order of Quebec and recipient of the prestigious Léon Guérin Prize, he has been defending the separation between knowledge and faith for over 40 years. His fight is vital for science, secularism, and democracy, reminding us that science is universal and transcends borders. On behalf of the Bloc, I offer him our most sincere congratulations. The honourable member for Winnipeg South Centre.
Mr. Speaker, some of my fondest childhood memories include Jewish holiday dinners around the table with relatives, laughing, eating traditional foods, and sharing a sense of collective pride in knowing that we were honouring our ancestors and building a stronger community for the future. I can still hear my father's booming voice and the sight of his contagious smile as he eagerly greeted family as they entered our home. These gatherings meant so much to him, as they do to me. Sundown tonight will mark the beginning of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. Although there will be cherished moments together this evening for Jews across our country, the joy of a new year will be accompanied by fear and anxiety, worsened by increasing anti-Semitism that has found an emboldened place in our country. Despite the hate that they continue to face, Jews in Canada will, as we have for thousands of years, continue to persevere. On the eve of this new year, I am proud to stand as a Jew in this chamber to wish the community a Shana Tova. May the upcoming year be filled with peace, joy, and the prospect of a brighter future. Thank you.
The honourable member for Algonquin, Renfrew, Pembroke.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is a carnival barker. He promises you can win the prize while he rigs the game. He promised the fastest growing economy in the G7. Instead, he gave us a shrinking economy and the second highest unemployment rate in the G7. He promised affordability, but gave us higher food prices. He promised to get more homes built, but gave us a phony housing announcement in the front of fake homes. He promised nation-building projects would be built at impossible speeds, but he hasn't issued a single permit. He promised elbows up, but he tucked his tail in and ran. He said we'd have a deal by July 21st, but all he's done is surrender on every issue. If this was a school, he'd get a failing grade. If this was a business, he'd be fired. But this is the Liberal Party, so he keeps surprise.
The honourable member for Mississauga East Cooksville.
Every time we purchase something made, grown, or produced here at home, we're supporting our neighbors, strengthening our communities, and investing in Canada's future. Here in Mississauga, we have so much to be proud of, from the chicken we serve our families, to the chocolate bars we love, to the planes that connect us to the world. Companies like Maple Lodge Farms, Magna, and our aerospace innovators, keeping thousands of local people working. Some sectors are being hard hit by tariffs and trade disruptions. That's why our Liberal government is stepping up to help, making sure that Canadian industries get the backing they need to stay competitive. Canada's government will be Canada's #1 customer with a clear commitment to supporting Canadian businesses. So next time you shop for groceries, furniture, or a vehicle, look for the maple leaf, choose Canadian. Together we can protect jobs, grow our economy, and keep Mississauga and Canada strong. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Ponoka-Didsbury.
In a speech from the throne, this so-called new Liberal government claimed that they would tackle crime while protecting the rights of law-abiding gun owners. It was a staggering admission of failure by a government that saw illegal gun crime skyrocket by 130%. Since then, they have shown that they are no different than the last Liberal government. Not only will they spend 4 times as much money to harass legal gun owners than criminals and gangs, but they have doubled down on their promise to finish their gun grab within the year. In an astonishing turn of events, both the Prime Minister and his Public Safety Minister have now said that their gun grab will be voluntary. But now, in a leaked audio clip, the Public Safety Minister was caught saying that Canadians would never get arrested if they didn't turn in their now prohibited guns. Is the minister suggesting that gun owners follow gun laws the same way the last Liberal Prime Minister followed ethics laws? Does the Prime Minister and the Public Safety Minister realize that it's a crime to counsel people to not follow the law?
L'honorable député de Rivière-des-Mille. The honourable member for Rivière-des-Mille. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On this first day of Gender Equality Week, it's our duty to face the facts. In Canada, a woman or girl is killed every 48 hours, most often by an intimate partner or ex. These femicides are not isolated incidents. They're the most brutal symptom of an imbalance of power and misogyny that, far from disappearing, is making a strong comeback, sometimes even unapologetically. We thought we had made irreversible progress, yet the setbacks are very real. Gender equality begins with a fundamental right, the right to live without fear. I pay tribute to the survivors, to the frontline organizations, the shelters, and all those who fight against gender-based violence. In the face of this resurgence of hatred, we must name, condemn, and act. Equality cannot be achieved by decree. It must be defended every day.
Ignoring the massacre of 8 Canadians on October 7th, siding with their killers, dehumanizing their families, the hostages still held, and over 1,200 stolen souls is evil. Granting a state to those who practice state terror as statecraft, who pay pensions for murdering Jews, is evil. Not requiring the state to even recognize Israel's right to exist is evil. None of their conditions were met. No election, no release of all hostages, no demilitarization of Hamas. Lying about these intentions is evil. Doing this on the eve of Rosh Hashanah, emboldening mobs and violence upon our Jewish communities, is evil. The fascism once buried in the last World War has risen again as modern terrorism. This isn't diplomacy, it's appeasement, it's betrayal. The Prime Minister has dispensed with human dignity and the rule of law. He's emboldened terror with the state. And, Mr. Speaker, it is evil.
The honourable member for Brome-Missisquoi.
Come on, guys.
In Brome-Missisquoi, we have the Centre for Innovation, which is the largest microelectronics and semiconductor research facility in the country. And I'd like to give a shout out to the CEO, whose visionary leadership has recently been recognized internationally. She received an award at the largest industrial salon in the world. This distinction reflects her commitment and her ability as an agent of change in an industry that's going through massive change. She's the G7 contact person for semiconductors and has positioned Canada as a key player in this strategic industry. We're very proud that she works in our region and makes Canada shine.
Leader of the Opposition.
Here we go. Let's kick it off.
The Liberals are setting criminals free. They're wasting money. They are targeting sports shooters and recreational shooters who abide by the law. The Liberals have increased firearm-related crime by 30%. That we already knew. Yet the Minister of Public Safety accidentally revealed the truth and was recorded doing so. He said that confiscating the firearms of law-abiding firearm owners was a waste of money. Does the Prime Minister agree with his minister?
Merci pour la question.
Thank you for the question.
Mr. Speaker, on Sunday I had a conversation with an individual that I've known for many years who recorded it without my knowledge and had it leaked to a gun lobbyist. In that conversation, Mr. Speaker, the subject of the assault-style firearms buyback compensation program was discussed. In trying to address this issue, Mr. Speaker, the individual's frustration, my comments were misguided. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, it's important to have the program in place is what Canadians are looking for. And I do want to note that the Leader of the Opposition has voted against every single gun measure.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
By freeing rampant gun criminals and wasting billions of dollars of police and border resources targeting law-abiding, licensed, trained and tested firearms owners, this government has overseen a 130% increase in violent gun crime. But over the weekend, the Minister of Public Safety accidentally told the truth, and he was recorded doing it. He said that the gun grab is not worth the money, that it will go over budget, and it would be better just to lock up the criminals, but that they're going ahead with the bad policy because it's good politics. Does the Prime Minister agree?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, it's a good thing there's a recording of it so that Canadians can have a look for themselves. Let me be very clear, Mr. Speaker. Canadians want responsible gun control. They wanted it in 1989 after a man killed 14 women at École Polytechnique. They wanted it after 6 people were murdered at the Quebec City mosque shooting. And they wanted it after the biggest mass shooting in our history, where a man opened fire and killed 22 people in Nova Scotia. Mr. Speaker, why are the Conservatives against keeping guns off our streets?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the minister said that his gun grab won't work, that it will go over budget, and that it would be better to lock up criminals, as Conservatives have been suggesting, but that they're going ahead with the gun grab anyway because the Prime Minister wants to pursue electoral politics. Electoral politics, Mr. Speaker. When a mother is hit with a stray bullet, or a police officer is murdered by a firearm, or a bullet flies into a child's bedroom as part of an extortion case, we don't have time for politics. So why is this minister caught on tape playing politics with guns?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, in order to have a real conversation about crime, we need to have a real conversation about guns. Canadians want responsible gun control, Mr. Speaker. They wanted it in 1989 after a man killed 14 women at École Polytechnique. They wanted it after 6 people were murdered at the Quebec City mosque shooting, and they wanted it after the biggest mass shooting in our history, where a man opened fire and killed 22 people in Nova Scotia. Mr. Speaker, why are the Conservatives against keeping guns off our streets, and why has this Leader of the Opposition voted against every single gun control measure that he has been in Parliament for?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
That minister did have a real conversation about guns. Unfortunately for him, he was caught on tape. Caught on tape admitting that the gun grab is a waste of money. Caught on tape admitting it would go over budget. Caught on tape admitting it would be better just to lock up the gun criminals who are actually doing the crime. Why is it that Liberals only tell the truth when they don't think anyone is listening?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, let me reiterate, it's actually a good thing that this conversation was caught on tape. And in fact, it will counter every single claim that this leader of the opposition is making. Let me be very clear, Mr. Speaker. Canadians want responsible gun control. We are in a position as a government, we committed to it during the last campaign, Mr. Speaker. Canadians gave us a mandate on April the 28th to ensure that we move forward on this program, and we look forward to its implementation.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, while this government blocks criminal justice reforms that would lock up gun criminals, they want to go ahead and take nearly $1 billion away from border security and police officers to go after licensed, law-abiding, trained and tested hunters and sport shooters, a project that the OPP refuses to enforce. Numerous provincial governments have said they will not go ahead with. They've even had to ask Canada Post to go and collect these firearms. The minister himself has now admitted that it won't work. Why won't they drop the politics and save lives?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, if the member is concerned about advancing legislation that's actually going to keep Canadians safe, he would work across the aisle with us as we seek to table legislation during this legislative sitting to ensure that violent repeat offenders are kept behind bars, to make sure the most serious offenders are actually facing stiffer penalties. But, Mr. Speaker, it is hard to accept criticism when it comes to keeping our community safe from gun violence from a member who, for more than 2 decades, has voted against the very specific measures that are designed to take guns off our streets, and he has voted repeatedly on the measures that will weaken our border to prevent the inflow of guns in the first place.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
I and we have voted against policies that have given Canada a 130% increase in gun violence. And speaking of getting things through Parliament, he says seek to introduce. This government has been in place for 10 years. They have softened penalties for repeat offenders. That minister took the summer off and still has not introduced any criminal justice reforms to stop guns. We put forward a 3 strikes you're out law that would lock up the repeat violent offenders. Instead, they're spending $700 million of police resources going after licensed law-abiding people. Why?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, I have news for my friend on the other side of the House of Commons. If he believes that I haven't moved forward with legislative efforts this sitting when it comes to criminal justice reform, I would have invited him to have shown up for work on Friday last week where we did that very thing. Mr. Speaker, he should look forward this fall sitting to seeing 2 additional pieces of criminal legislative reform. One on bail and sentencing that will make sure violent repeat offenders are not walking amongst our streets, and a second that will protect those who are at risk of intimate partner violence or at risk of being victimized by sexual offenses. And when it comes to the summer, I was meeting with law enforcement and provincial counterparts. He was fighting for his job.
As the member knows, we cannot suggest that somebody was present or not in the House. I'm assuming he meant it in a very vague way, that it had something to do with, something else. But I'll just give that warning to the member. L'honorable député de Saint-Jean.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, with its factum to the Supreme Court against Bill 21, Ottawa is basically bordering on conspiracy theory. By challenging state secularism, the Liberals are creating a slippery slope towards disaster scenarios such as banning places of worship. The Liberals even suggest that Quebec might reinstate slavery or executions. This speaks volumes about how Canadians view Quebec, Mr. Speaker. They say, don't give them too much parliamentary sovereignty. They're crazy enough to reestablish slavery. If the government wanted to tarnish Quebecers' reputation, it couldn't have done so better than through this factum. Will the government withdraw it? The Honourable Minister of Justice. Mr. Speaker, We are working towards the national interest. This matter is in the national interest, so the federal government must protect the Constitution. As the member knows full well, the Supreme Court of Canada is absolutely the right forum for this type of debate. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the federal government is attacking much more than secularism at the Supreme Court. They are also attacking Quebec's parliamentary sovereignty by amending the Constitution through the courts without debate. This is a power grab which goes against the purpose itself of the notwithstanding clause, which is to protect democracy from judiciary governance. If the federal government wants to amend the Constitution, that should be debated in our parliaments and in the public space, not in court. Will the government withdraw its brief and stop using judges to undermine Quebec's parliamentary sovereignty?
L'honorable ministre de l'Identité.
The Honourable Minister of Identity and Canadian Culture. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With all due respect to my colleague, what she's saying is misinformed. The federal government's representations to the Supreme Court will not prevent provinces and territories from continuing to be able to use Section 33 of the Charter and using the notwithstanding clause. The Minister of Justice is sitting right next to me and would be happy to explain to her what we are suggesting as a process. We will always defend the rights and freedoms of Canadians. We are a charter supporting party, always have been, always will be. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, when the Liberals say that they're not attacking secularism before the Supreme Court, it's false. What they should be saying is that they're not only attacking secularism. By attacking the notwithstanding clause, they are also attacking the protection of the French language and signage in French. They're even attacking consensual matters such as protecting children's identities in otherwise public trials, or also attacking the absence of lawyers in small claims courts. They're attacking democracy. They're even attacking Quebec's model. Will they finally withdraw the challenge, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Minister for Identity and Canadian Culture. Mr. Speaker, I'm a very proud Quebecer. There are many very proud Quebecers on this side of the House. We have been supporting Quebec for years, for decades, Mr. Speaker. What the member across the way is claiming is untrue. We are the first federal government to officially acknowledge the decline of the French language. We invested heavily to protect French. We're the first in history to invest in out-of-Quebec immigration targets for Francophone immigration. We increased the percentage. We are supporting and defending the French language. That's what we're doing on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker.
November for Calgary East. After 10 years of Liberals, food prices have skyrocketed 40%. This Prime Minister said he'd be different, and he's right. He's even more expensive than Justin Trudeau was. He's doubling the deficit, racking up the federal debt, and blocking anything that would help bring food prices to come down. Liberal inflation is making food prices 75% over the bank's target. Why doesn't this Prime Minister just get out of the way so Conservatives can pass common sense legislation like the Canada Sovereignty Act and actually bring down the cost of groceries?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, in the last election, Canadians had a clear choice between a leader that has economic and business experience versus a leader that has none. We are focused on affordability for Canadians, cutting taxes for 22 million Canadians. We are cutting the consumer carbon tax. We are cutting the GST for first-time homebuyers. And we are going to build homes at a scale not seen since the Second World War. I ask the Conservatives to cut the rhetoric and get on board. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Calgary East. In the last election, Canadians were duped by a guy that's committing economic vandalism. This finance minister said he would bring down the cost of groceries Thanksgiving 2023. It's almost Thanksgiving 2025, and the cost of groceries has skyrocketed. It's like the cost of living crisis that they created. Their solution to that is to spend even more than Trudeau did. Why doesn't this Prime Minister stop competing with Justin Trudeau for the most expensive Prime Minister in Canadian history and get out of the way so Conservatives can fix everything these guys broke?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, this last summer we crossed the country, went from coast to coast to coast, and the message from Canadians was resoundingly clear. They want us to spend less and invest more in national projects, invest more in building our country, bringing down interprovincial trade barriers, working together, Mr. Speaker. We have a plan to build the strongest economy in the G7. That is exactly what we're going to do. I ask the Conservatives to stop the rhetoric and get on board.
The Honourable Member for Haldimand Norfolk.
10 years of Liberal rule, and what do Canadians have to show for it? Soaring food prices, food insecurity, 4 million visits to food banks in Toronto alone last year. A quarter of Canadian households cannot afford to put food on the table. That is 40% higher than the year before. So, when will this Prime Minister stop obstructing Parliament and introduce a budget that lowers food prices?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
You know, Mr. Speaker, when Canadians are facing a hard time, they want a government that will invest in them. And today, as the Canadian Building Trades Unions visit us in Ottawa, celebrating the investments in major projects that are going to create great paying jobs for tradespeople all across this country, with a government that's focused on making sure that we cut taxes for individuals, 22 million Canadians, when making sure that Canadians have what they need. Canadians chose well, and they chose this government, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Haldimand Norfolk.
Canadians want a government that will deal with this affordability crisis. This crisis happened on their watch. This Prime Minister promised Canadians that they could judge him by the price of groceries. Well, the numbers are in. Apples are up 14%. Potatoes are up 16%. Canned food is up 26%. When will this Prime Minister stop obstructing Parliament and introduce a budget that will bring back food affordability to Canada?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Well, Mr. Speaker, Canadians are intelligent, and they knew better than to place their vote with the opposition, with Conservatives that were threatening, indeed voting against everything that was making their lives more affordable, whether it was a school food and nutrition program, whether it was the Canada Dental Care Plan, whether it was investment in seniors, increasing supports for seniors, whether it was investments in infrastructure, Mr. Speaker. Time and time again, Conservatives voted against these measures. Canadians saw with their eyes they could not count on Conservatives to protect them.
The Honourable Member for Parry Sound Muskoka.
After 10 years of Liberals, experts are now warning of up to 100,000 job losses in the housing sector by 2027. Builders are laying off their trained staff, even though the Prime Minister promised to double housing construction. Housing starts have stalled completely in the GTA and the Lower Mainland, where the housing crisis is the worst. In Ajax, housing starts are down 100%. Builders are praising our common sense plan to remove the GST on all homes under $1.3 million, saying it will restart home building. So why doesn't the Prime Minister want home builders building homes?
Good question.
The Honourable Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, to the member opposite, that's exactly why this government is committed to the most aggressive affordable housing program in our history. That's excellent. We need to focus on affordability. Canadians have spoken. Canadians have elected this government to deliver on affordability. With a tax cut, with a focus on affordable housing, we're seeing right out of the gate, Build Canada Homes focused on 4,000 homes in 6 cities across Canada, $1 billion into supportive housing, and 700 units of housing in Nunavut. We need to scale up. We expect their support.
The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of this Liberal government, inflation is increasing. In fact, according to a Food Banks Canada report, 25.5% of households are struggling to put food on the table. We found out about a senior who has been working hard his whole life and can't even feed himself. I traveled through my riding this summer. I met hundreds of people, good people who work hard every day to put food on the table. Mr. Speaker, when will the Prime Minister stop obstructing Parliament and table a budget that will bring down food prices? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, the member across the way knows full well that the budget will be tabled soon. We will be calling on his support for the budget. We have a plan to build Canada up, to create more job opportunities. We want to use our young people to succeed. We want to take advantage of Canada's expertise in aluminum and other sectors. And we will want his support. The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. After 10 years of these same old Liberals, requests for food aid are skyrocketing. In Montmorency-Charlevoix, my riding, like elsewhere in the country, food banks are facing an unprecedented increase in demand. There's been a 30% increase in food prices in just a year. Food Banks Canada has given Canada a mark of D for food insecurity. The Prime Minister said we could judge him based on grocery prices. Well, what's his grade? G for groceries or F for failure? The Honourable Government House Leader. The member across the way is new here. He likely hasn't had the opportunity to meet with his party's whip. His party's whip will tell him to vote against all supports for Canadians, to vote against food aid, food programs in schools, to vote against daycare, to vote against support for seniors, to vote against legislation to protect workers in Canada. The whip will tell him to vote against all of that. And the member across the way is going to learn that the hard way, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, there's been a shocking revelation from Radio-Canada. Members of organized crime groups are entering Canada on student permits in order to get rich through fraud, car theft, identity theft, and more. Once again, instead of taking responsibility, the Department of Immigration is burying its head in the sand. In the department's response to the news story, IRCC blamed universities, even though this is exclusively a federal government responsibility to screen people entering Canada, including screening international students. The Department of Immigration is responsible for this. When will it get to work and fight organized crime instead of blaming universities, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Canadians gave us the mandate to restore the international student program and to bring our levels back to reasonable levels, and that's what we are doing. According to the latest numbers, there's been a decrease of 144,000 study permits granted. We want to protect foreign students and protect Canada as well. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Well, apparently the minister hasn't heard the Radio-Canada report. It's a matter of international crime. There are bandits profiting and exploiting Canada's laxity to make hundreds of millions of dollars. There are border services. Our border services, they know that the money is being used to strengthen criminal organizations in Côte d'Ivoire and even being used to finance terrorist activities. While Europe cracks down on the network it calls the African Mafia, Ottawa is treating this like a slight problem. It's quite obvious why Canada is a prime target. Will Ottawa finally take some responsibility? The Honourable Minister of Immigration. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We are working to strengthen and reinforce our borders. With more sophisticated fraud going on, we need more sophisticated tools to safely handle immigration. Our bill, C2, is before Parliament, and it will guarantee fairness in our immigration system. It will also improve treatment of asylum claims and immigration claims. We must protect the integrity of our system. And I urge all parliamentarians here to support us. Thank you.
Since the minister was appointed, many more people have been abused and defrauded by Canadian immigration consultants who contribute to the chaos in Canada's immigration system while the minister just lets them. Instead of taking advice experts have been giving for years, which is to make immigration consultants report to lawyers, the minister said, "This is fine," this summer, and doubled down on a system that is clearly not working. The Prime Minister chose an incompetent minister to sit in one of the most important files in government. Why?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the Prime Minister for choosing me to be the Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship. Very proud of my record when I served as Nova Scotia's Minister of Immigration. Protecting prospective newcomers from those who try to take advantage of them is critically important, and that is why we've established the College of Immigration and Citizenship Consultants to regulate consultants and protect the public, and this is something that we are very serious about, and we will ensure that it gets done.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
The Minister mentioned her record as immigration minister in a provincial government. During that time, a Nova Scotia auditor found that there were the following issues: no process to determine provincial labour market needs and assess whether those were being addressed by Nova Scotia's provincial nominee program, and none of the 8 recommendations from a 2020 fraud risk assessment had been implemented. So I'll ask the same question. Why did the Prime Minister put an incompetent minister into this position?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Again, I want to thank the Prime Minister. In fact, I want to thank the people in Halifax West for electing me to this Parliament. I am here to do the best job I possibly can do with my experience, with my expertise, and with my love for Canada and love for Canadians. And we will continue to do that. As for my record as Minister of Immigration from 2013 to 2021, provincially, the record is clear. I would invite parliamentarians to go look at it. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Hill South.
After 10 years of this Liberal government, our immigration system is in chaos. This summer, illegal border crossers claiming asylum surged by a staggering 277%. Most of them will be bogus. This has put massive pressure on housing, healthcare, and benefits across Canada, especially in Quebec. And what did the immigration minister do? Absolutely nothing. She enjoyed her summer vacation while our borders were left wide open. The Prime Minister promised to be different, but instead of fixing it, he let the situation spiral out of control while Canadians paid the price. Why did the Prime Minister appoint such an incompetent minister to one of the most important jobs who is making the crisis worse every single day?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm not going to thank for that question, but I will answer that question. I've spent my summer, a whole 10, 11 weeks, working 7 days a week without taking 1 day for vacation. Having said that, this government is intent on ensuring that our immigration system becomes sustainable as well as protecting our borders. That is why we have Bill C2 in front of us in Parliament, which will be an aid for us here, and I urge all parliamentarians to get on board and support it.
The Honourable Member for Newmarket Aurora.
After 10 years of this Liberal government, Canada's immigration system is broken. The Prime Minister promised he'd be different, but nothing has changed. The only way to stop illegal border crossers from abusing our asylum system is to end the incentives that turn it into a backdoor for economic migration. Yet this immigration minister has done nothing, literally nothing all summer. So I ask again, why has the Prime Minister put a minister who is totally out of her depth and making things worse on one of the most important files in Cabinet?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I am a little puzzled and a little concerned about the tone coming from the opposition. We do not treat MPs and ministers in this House in this way. That minister is doing a fantastic job and has presented legislation before this Parliament that party needs to respond to, that will clean up our immigration system. And while they're at it, they can perhaps answer for why in Cloverdale, Langley City, they are forcing temporary students to come campaign for them in by-election campaigns. Those are the questions the incompetent leader of the opposition and his party need to answer.
The Honourable Member for Abbotsford South Langley.
Mr. Speaker, the minister said she worked all summer, and the system is worse.
Whoa.
The Prime Minister promised that he'd be different, but illegal border crossers have been surging into Canada to abuse the asylum system all work, and the minister has done nothing to stop it. She hasn't strengthened the Safe Third Country Agreement. She hasn't reviewed the benefits they receive to put a stop to the ones they come into our country. She's let the asylum seekers become even worse, and the predecessor that she followed. The Prime Minister chose to be incompetent and chose an incompetent minister for the cabinet. Why?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, our government is working hard to secure our borders. This morning I had the chance to meet with the president of the CBSA, who advised that border crossings are down 60%, Mr. Speaker. We will strengthen our borders.
Oh no, that's on their end. What is up? Sorry, gang. Lost a signal. Well, we're not going to struggle with that too long. Let's get this back. I'll get a signal here very, very quickly.
Opportunities through the Union Training Innovation Program, Mr. Speaker. We're investing
in the House
training
right now, Mr. Speaker.
If
this party opposite is serious about
down Canada, we're building Canada up with Canadian
Sorry about
workers.
that. That was, I don't know.
The honourable member for Kamloops, Thompson Nicola.
The public safety minister told the truth. It's true. He spoke about how this confiscation buyback is an incredible boondoggle. Now let's actually hear what he had to say. This is the mandate I was given by the Prime Minister to complete this and not revisit this. Sounds like he doesn't even believe in this. So if the Public Safety Minister doesn't believe in this program, why are we spending $742 million taxpayer dollars to keep it going?
Here, here. Great.
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I've addressed this issue a number of times, but let me just make it very personal, Mr. Speaker. The last 4 months in this role as Minister of Public Safety, I've received a great deal of vitriol from the gun lobby, Mr. Speaker. If you go into my social media accounts, you will see hundreds, if not thousands, of comments of hatred that's coming through the gun lobby, Mr. Speaker. What the party opposite is doing is reinforcing that. We have a serious plan to ensure that guns are off our streets. That's why we will be going forward and implementing this program, Mr. Speaker. I invite the party opposite to come on board and ensure that our streets are safe.
Go get him, Tiger.
Member for Kamloops, Thompson Nicola.
It's always somebody else's fault, Mr. Speaker. What this minister fails to mention is that in Bill C-5, he voted so that people who do drive-by shootings can serve their sentence on house arrest.
Shame.
People who do robberies with guns, house arrest, Mr. Speaker. Nobody wants a part of this program. Canada Post doesn't want a part of it. Local law enforcement doesn't want a part of it. OPP doesn't want a part of this $742 million boondoggle. The minister told us that he just has to put it to an end. So why are they still intent on having this program go forward when all he wants to do is end it?
Here, here.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives constantly want U.S.-style politics here, whether it's the 3 strikes or you're out rule or assault rifles on our streets, which the Conservatives would make legal again.
That's right.
Mr. Speaker, we've seen these policies fail in the U.S. and they won't work here either. Come up with some comprehensive, meaningful change, like the change that we're going to bring with bail reform and sentencing reform, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Oxford.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal gun grab scam unfairly targets law-abiding Canadians while giving criminals a free pass. This failed scam has been rejected by the police, the provinces, Canada Post, and now even their own public safety minister. In a leaked audio, he says that the Prime Minister pressured him. He admits that this plan won't work, and he even promised to pay his tenant's bail if he's arrested. You can't make this up, Mr. Speaker. What they say in public versus what they say behind closed doors is totally the opposite. So if the minister won't stand behind his own plan, why should Canadians foot the $700 million bill for their scam?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, we're moving forward in a responsible way to make sure that gun ownership in Canada is safe. There is no reason to have assault-style firearms on our streets or in our homes. Right. Mr. Speaker, we're going to be responsible. We're going to make sure that we don't have the gun crisis that we see in the United States just south of us. If Conservatives have their way, they'd make guns free and legal for everyone.
The Honourable Member for York Centre.
Conservatives have been saying from day one that the gun buyback program is an awful idea. Law-abiding gun owners don't commit gun crime with lawfully purchased guns. Criminals commit gun crime. Gun criminals who terrorize our streets because of the Liberals' failure on law and order. We know that the OPP won't participate in the program. Canada Post won't participate in the program. Local police won't participate in the program. Now we learn that the Minister of Public Safety doesn't want to participate in it either. Why is this minister going ahead with a program that he doesn't want to participate in?
Here, here.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives need to get serious about resolving and coming up with solutions when it comes to crime, when it comes to firearms in our country. When they were in government, Mr. Speaker, they cut funding to the RCMP, to our borders, and they would go back and make assault-style firearms legal in our country. If they cared so much about the safety of our nation, maybe their leaders should get a security clearance.
The Honourable Member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Leaked audio from the Public Safety Minister revealed the truth. Not even he believes the Liberal gun confiscation program will work. He begged a law-abiding citizen, and I quote, "Don't ask me to explain the logic to you. He knows it's wrong." And he admits the Prime Minister is forcing him to ram this failed policy through, even though he knows it won't fix their soft-on-crime record. So, why is the minister still proceeding with this $742 million boondoggle when even he admits it's a failure?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 35 years ago, I was shot by a legal gun-buying order, and since then, what Canadians want is assault-style firearms to get off our streets, and this is going to happen this year. The honourable member for Charlesbourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, Liberal policies for student visas are chaotic in Canada and particularly in Quebec. They allow mafioso-type African criminals to get in, and there are people from Ivory Coast who have scammed Canadians out of money who are allowed to come to this country. What is the Prime Minister doing to fight this scourge of fake students who are criminals? The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Canadians have given us the mandate to reestablish the international student program at viable levels, and we're doing this. We also have Bill C2 before us in the Parliament, and to get the figures down and avoid spikes in demand, we are trying to strengthen our borders and make them more resilient. So I'd ask all parliamentarians to support this legislation. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, I think that the Minister did not understand the issue. These were visas given to students, and 200 of them are Africans who are part of the mafia there. They're in Quebec. They are committing crimes, scams, car thefts, etc. This is an international ring that is now in Canada because of laxist Liberal policies on immigration. Can the Minister confirm that they will solve this problem of false student visas? The Honourable Minister of Immigration. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
It's a crime in Canada, regardless of what status they're on, will face consequences.
The IRCC is working with CBSA and all of our partners here to ensure.
Deport somebody, we will. That's CBSA's job. But again, we work with other government departments to ensure that Canadians are protected and that fraud is limited. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Heritage.
Mr. Speaker, an administrative question for the Prime Minister. I went to check the Ministry of Foreign Affairs website to see what this new state he has announced might look like. There is no map. Can we expect the Prime Minister and the Minister of Foreign Affairs to upload a map of the borders of this so-called state? Could they identify its capital?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I respect the question. However, at this point, what I want to simply say is that there is no military solution to the conflict at hand. There's only a political solution, and in the vein of Lester Pearson, this side of the party will continue to work for peaceful solutions to ensure that Israel and Palestinians have safe and secure borders for each of them so they will live in peace together. That is what this side of the House will work on. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Calgary Heritage.
The Palestinian Authority runs a program perpetuating generational genocidal hate with pensions for terrorists who murder Jews. The PA, the PLO, and Fatah all embed terrorism into their institutions. The PLO founded the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade, a listed terrorist entity responsible for the attacks on October 7th. If recognition of statehood is to have any real meaning, will the Prime Minister designate this as a state sponsor of terrorism?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me also state that Canada supports Israel and its right to defend its people every day. Let me also be clear, Hamas is a terrorist group. It must release hostages immediately. That have been held cruelly for 2 years. It must disarm, and it will play no role in the future governance of a Palestinian state. We will continue to defend the state of Israel, and we will continue to defend the people of Palestine to ensure we have two states with equal justice and equal rights to prosperity.
The honourable member for Terrebonne. Mr. Speaker, today is the beginning of Gender Equality Week. There has been progress made, and we need to remain firm in our commitment to strengthen gender equality for all Canadians. We want to build the strongest economy in the G7, and we need the total participation and active participation of women. Can the minister inform us about measures taken by this government to advance gender equality?
The Honourable Minister of Gender Equality.
Thank you very much for this question. We cannot build the strongest economy in the G7 without the participation of women fully. Thanks to our strategy for entrepreneurial women, we've been able to help more than 400,000 women across the country. And with our national action plan, we're taking action to fight feminicide. This week, we recognize the progress accomplished and our commitment to gender equality. Thank you.
The honourable member for Parkland.
Mr. Speaker, in the last 4 months, $54 billion in investment has fled Canada, and that's in addition to nearly $500 billion lost in 10 years under this Liberal government. Now, the Prime Minister promised strength, but all that he's delivered is weakness. His oil and gas production cap is killing Canadian prosperity. Now, Conservatives today are calling for the end of this production cap. Will the Liberals keep their boot on the neck of our energy sector, or will they vote with Conservatives to axe the cap?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians voted to strengthen our economy by growing our energy and natural resources industries while combating climate change. We will support innovation, increase our competitiveness, and attract billions of dollars of investment to get to net zero. Let me share something that the Premier of Alberta said just this weekend. I am more optimistic than ever that the concerns of Albertans are being heard. Perhaps the honourable member on the other side could give up his division and work with us to build Canada strong.
The honourable member for Red Deer.
10 years of Liberal policies aimed at killing our energy industry have shrunk our economy and driven up unemployment. This Prime Minister promised he'd be different, but instead, it's more of the same. Alberta's energy industry has powered and enriched this nation for decades. But if the production cap stays, there will be no pipelines, and Canada will remain at the mercy of U.S. and other foreign interests. Will the Liberals vote for our Conservative motion to eliminate the Liberal job-killing energy cap, or will they continue obstructing getting Canada built?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, we're focused on results that enhance our climate competitiveness. Our government, Alberta, and industry agree. Building a responsible, competitive oil and gas industry is part of the grand bargain. As someone who spent my career making deals, I know you don't get things done by speaking in public. But let me share something with the honourable member. His premier said this weekend, "I'm more optimistic than ever that the concerns of Albertans are being heard." We'd appreciate you getting on board, end the division, get the unity together, and build Canada strong.
The honourable member for Medicine Hat, Cardston Warner.
Canada's oil and gas emissions cap will continue to devastate jobs in the energy sector and make life more expensive for Canadians. The Parliamentary Budget Officer estimates that the emissions cap will cut our GDP by about $20.5 billion annually and eliminate 54,000 more jobs by 2032. This Prime Minister promised he would be different, but those promises have been broken, Mr. Speaker. Will the Prime Minister support the Conservative motion to repeal the gas and oil emissions cap, or will he and the Liberals continue to be obstructive?
Great question.
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, the grand bargain is about taking transformative steps to dramatically reduce our emissions and put new cards in Canada's hand that increase our competitiveness. That has the potential to create thousands of good-paying jobs and careers and create a world-leading clean tech ecosystem that exports our innovation around the world. As I said, the Premier of Alberta said this weekend, "I'm more optimistic than ever that the concerns of Albertans are being heard." I would invite the honourable member across the aisle to get with us and build Canada strong.
The honourable member for Labrador.
Mr. Speaker, for too long, northern communities like those in my own riding of Labrador have had to rely on diesel-generated electricity to keep the lights on at costs that are too high. Can the minister share with this House how our new government is replacing diesel with dependable, clean power in the north while helping communities build the sustainable future they deserve?
Good question.
The Honourable Minister of Northern and Arctic Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member Labrador for this question. Mr. Speaker, our new government is supporting Indigenous-led transitions from diesel to dependable clean power. In Yukon, Kluane First Nation wind and battery project provides about half the community's power and saves over 300,000 litres of diesel a year. In Nunavut, the Inuit-led Sanikuluak wind project will replace up to 70% of local diesel use. Project by project, we are delivering cleaner, more affordable power across the north.
The honourable member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to go back to last Friday's question. The Liberal government announced it's building 4,000 new homes at the cost of $13 billion. That's $3.2 million per door. With $3.2 million in Beauce, we could build 15 homes, not one. We could build more than 4,000, and with 13,000, we could build 20,000 homes, not 4,000. The math doesn't add up. With the Liberals, it always costs more and more and more.
Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for this question.
The Conservatives are already getting the math wrong. That's right. And we need to set this straight. Build Canada Homes will have $13 billion to invest in affordable housing across the country. We have a number of projects to launch that with, 4,000 homes in 6 cities across the country, 700 homes in Nunavut, as I mentioned earlier, and $1 billion into supportive transitional housing. That'll be roughly 5,000 homes for people who are homeless or at risk of homelessness. We're going to see tens of thousands of homes across Canada built. That's right. We look for your support on the budget. Thank you.
The honourable member for Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, this weekend, thousands of people across Canada joined Draw the Line protests to send the Prime Minister a very clear message. Enough is enough. Why? Because the Prime Minister and Cabinet are pushing through legislation and measures violating the rights of workers, violating the rights of Indigenous peoples, violating the rights of migrants, while undermining gender equality, civil liberties, disability justice, and environmental protection. So my question through you, Mr. Speaker, is why is the Liberal government bulldozing over our Constitution to fast-track their corporate agenda?
The The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure what the question is in all of that, but what I can say is this government was elected, Mr. Speaker, to focus on Canadians, to be pragmatic, to stand up for Canada, to make sure people had great jobs, to make sure that Canadians can count on their government when things are tough. And that's exactly what we're doing day in and day out, Mr. Speaker. We're focused on what Canadians need, what they're telling us they want to invest in. We've got an ambitious plan, Mr. Speaker, and we're acting on it.
That is all the time we have for question period today.
Oui, c'est ça, c'est vrai.
All right, gang. So we're going to stick a fork in that. That was a very entertaining show for question period. Like, everybody was going off. A lot of Lena Diab, a lot of Gary the Tiger. So ridiculous, right? Anyhow, guys, lots more for me to do here this evening. We've got committees to cover. There's more stuff coming. There's so many things that happen besides question period. Anyhow, we're going to go and try to make some videos about those this evening. I'm Aaron, Canadian Looney. Like, share, subscribe. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, we're here every day covering question period. We have an amazing chat room and a lot of very funny but frustrated, common sense people that are critical thinkers that know something's up. Like, everybody here knows something's up, guys. This is a big dupe and we're in trouble. All we can do is try to spread the word, right? Like, they're not all stupid liberal voters. A lot of the people were just duped. If you only watch CBC, which I don't advise that, but many people do, they're not stupid. They just believe the news. And like, if you grew up trusting the news like I did, I can only imagine what it would be like for people that are 2 generations ahead of me. It's not that they're stupid. They've been duped, and it's human nature to not want to admit to being duped or turning the other cheek or just looking away. Anyhow, that is it. Again, Aaron, Canadian Looney. Like, share, subscribe. We'll be back tomorrow for another show, and we're going out on this. This is it. Thank you all for watching.
You should do exercises. That's important to our good health. And friends, tomorrow we are going to be visiting with a fisherman who will tell us about his very enjoyable hobby. Now, I would like to see you all through our magic mirror. Romper, bumper, stomper, boo, tell me, do. Magic mirror, please tell me today, did all of my friends have fun at play? I see all of my friends in Alberta. It's nice to see you. And I see Dan and Vivian. I see Marlon and Mona. I see Catherine and Harley. I see Anne and Elizabeth and Jane. I see Bert and Nicole. And I see you too. I hope to see you tomorrow, right here in Romp Room.
Ding dong, knock, knock, hey, daddy, do. Bing bong, tick tock, bebop, boom.
Kick off your weekend with exciting CFL action when the Edmonton Eskimos tackle the BC Lions in Vancouver. Tomorrow night at 10:30 on CFTO TV.
Ding dong, knock, knock, hey, daddy, do. Tip tap, pitter pat, granny cat too. Rootin' toot, Kimbo, loo, dee, loo.